Hi, my name is Guillermo Gonzalez, and I will be sharing a little bit about my testimony with you on this Testimony Tuesday. I'll begin with reading a verse out of the Bible. It's one of my favorite verses. It's in 2 Corinthians 12:9. It reads, "And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. My strength is made perfect in weakness." God's strength is perfect in my weaknesses throughout my entire life. I can tell you story after story about all the times that God's grace has pulled me through. I won't go through all the details of my 17-year addiction. I'll just hit the highlights. I began using drugs when I was in high school, and I won't sit here and say that, or I won't sit here and blame it on anyone or any kind of traumatizing moments in my life, or blame it on anyone that I experimented drugs. It was all my choice. I chose to drink, I chose to do the drugs, and when I was in high school, of course there's peer pressure, but at the end it was my choice to do the drugs. So I started off with drinking wine coolers, drinking beer bottles, Mad Dog 2020. I'm sure we all remember that. I used to use marijuana occasionally daily, through high school. And when I got out of high school, I started hanging around with a different crowd. You get to know more people when you're out of high school. You go into the workforce and you meet different people, and I did. And I was introduced to cocaine. Started using cocaine at the age of 20. When cocaine wasn't enough anymore, I started smoking it. I started smoking crack. When I started smoking crack cocaine, it took me through some dark areas in my life. That drug, like any other drug, is no joke. It's not anything that you can use leisurely. It's a drug that'll take you through hell and keep you there as long as you let it. But again, by the grace of God, I was able to stop. Throughout my 17-year addiction to crack cocaine, I was in and out of jail throughout my entire 20s. I ended up in prison in 1998. I made so many promises to God that I would never use drugs again. Actually, I promised God that I wouldn't use drugs for 2 years after I got out of prison. Promised him that much. I told him just to see me through those 2 years in prison, and I would be good for 2 years. So when I got out, of course, I almost kept my promise. I was clean for almost 2 years, but I relapsed on a Cinco de Mayo, and I thought it was okay to just have a couple of drinks. But those couple of drinks, as an addict, led to a couple of lines of cocaine. And those couple of lines of cocaine led to piles of cocaine. Those piles of cocaine lasted, I don't think that's a word, but after that relapse, my relapse lasted 5 years. I couldn't stop. I thought that I was gonna either die or end up in prison. I've heard a lot of stories of people saying I have to stop or I'm gonna die, and I guess I never really thought that. my thoughts were always like, gotta get another hit or I'm gonna die. And there came a point in my life where I started just thinking and wanting more, not more drugs anymore, but I wanted to change my life. I just didn't know how. I knew all about God. I knew that my mom prayed for me for so many years, and my church prayed for me for so many years while I was active in my addiction. And I knew I could go to church. I knew that I could get prayed for, and I just didn't know how to stop because it had been part of my life for so long. But in 2007, I guess I had that awakening that people talk about. I had like an aha moment. I was to pinpoint the day. It was July 28th, 2007, and I had my little brother Solomon had graduated high school that year, and he was enrolling into college that day, and I went with him. My mom and I did, and I was high, of course, because that's what I did. That was my life. I was high. Kind of just lurked in the background, just watching everything and trying to be involved, but couldn't because I was high. And I had that moment, that realization that there was more to life. And I saw him, and I was so proud of him, and I just wanted more for him that I asked God, I begged God to take my addiction from me. I meant it. I meant it with all my heart, with all my mind, and since that day, all the honor and all the glory be to God that I haven't touched another drug again. I just recently celebrated 9 years of recovery, and I'm very proud of that. It at the beginning, it's not easy. It's not something that comes natural. It's something that you have to work at daily, and I never really I did it through God. I mean, that's all I knew all my life. I knew God, but I also knew that I loved to do drugs. And when I finally decided to stop doing drugs and give it all to God, I mean, He actually took it away, and the cravings are still there. The peer pressure was still there. The friends were still there offering it to me, and I don't really think that they meant any harm. They just, that's who I was. That's who they knew me as, and I was able to be strong and not do it again. But recently, I started working as a recovery coach for Central Plains Center here in Plainview, Texas, and I've been able to learn so much about addiction and about recovery, about different stages of addiction and recovery, and along with helping others that are like me, that are in the same shoes that I was in many years ago, and are striving to be sober, striving to be in recovery. I'm able to share bits and pieces of my story whenever it's time for it. I know I didn't share a lot about my story. I just said that I was in my addiction for all those years, but it's just appropriate to say that God changed my life, and I know that there's hope for everyone. I know that if you want to change, I know that there's a God that can help you change. If you want it, if you follow through with it, it will happen for you. I believe that there's hope for everyone. I tell people that I was the worst person that you could ever come across when I was in my addiction, and I was, and it's not something that I'm proud of. But now, if I can change, I feel that anyone can change. And it says in in the big book, page 63, it says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take me away from my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness unto those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. If you stick to what you believe, if you stick to the big book, the Bible, or the big book of Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous, you can be successful in your recovery. There's hope for everyone, and whatever your addiction is, whatever your struggles are, there's people out here willing to help you. There's people out here that are always praying for you. I thank God that I always had that help. And I encourage anyone, of course, anyone that struggles with addiction or that struggles with anything in life, seek God, seek help. There's help everywhere. And call me. Everyone has my number. Everyone can look me up on Facebook. Again, I appreciate your time, and thank you again for letting me share my bits and pieces of my story. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.